Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Stranger Tides event, in which Cyrene is added to the game. We also ended up getting a new legend in the event key drop table, as well as a very interesting Soulforge this week. So let's start getting into everything. As far as the troop, it does come in with yellow-purple. It is an epic, so you can get these for very cheap, cheapest you'll ever be able to get them. So if you want to stock up on yellow-purple trait stones to level up all of your, or trade up all of your troops, make sure to do so. As far as the troop itself, it is pretty underwhelming though. It's kind of like a Dracos 1337, but weaker for the most part. As far as what it does, it drains 7 mana from an enemy and then eliminates some of their magic based on basically half her magic plus 1, I believe it is. Then it ends up stunning and entangling them. So overall, this is basically just going to disable them, make sure they can't really do their ability, make sure they can't really do their skulls. However, there are things that can end up doing pretty similar to this for much cheaper. For example, Cockatrice can end up doing almost this exact thing, aside from the magic elimination, but it gets to drain all the mana, and it does it for only 10, plus it can cycle mana back into itself. So this for 14 mana costs, pretty underwhelming. Between that and Dracos 1337 is basically just an inferior version of both of them in pretty much every single situation. Doesn't really have anything too good on its traits either, so pretty much a useless troop that you're never going to use other than for upgrading the Kingdom. The Kingdom can reach 17 stars of this week though, but aside from that, you're pretty much just getting that for Kingdom upgrading purposes or for those trait stones, and just kind of getting it alongside it. Anyways, we do have 10% to all Merlantis and 10% to all Merfolk, which has quite a bit of overlap and will be pretty useful for the event that we have going on this week. And while I don't really advise it, if you do use Cyrene in PvP, you do gain additional trait stone every single time, so you can end up getting 2 instead of the normal 1. Would not really bother doing that though. Anyways, as far as event key drop table, we got some juicy stuff today. So of course we got a new legend. Oh, hello Undyne. Also you can still get mythics here, of course. So and it's, of course, based on the Merlantis mythics. You can get Undyne, and the other one is the one that submerges. Why do I forget her name? I just forgot her name all of a sudden. But it's kind of like the Gorgotha, or not the Gorgotha, but it's kind of like the Infernus-like one that submerges. I'll remember her name later. I actually have her used for her team. Is it Aquaticus? It might be Aquaticus. But anyways, as far as this thing, this is the new troop that came out today. It's, I'm not even going to try pronouncing that. The K one. It's Kirby. Kharybdis. The crab. But anyways, the crab, it's basically like a different version of Kraken. It's actually possibly better than Kraken in some instances. So Kraken in the past has gotten its Devour nerfed once, twice, I'm not even sure. I believe it used to be like 40, 50%, somewhere around there. It's currently, I believe, 35%, which is kind of in line with what this thing can do. It deals damage to the first enemy and to the last enemy, which is a little bit different than Kraken, in that Kraken hits the last 2 enemies. And then there's independent 10% chance to devour the enemies that it ends up hitting, but the 2 of them, boosted by a 3% for every single submerged ally and enemy. Keep in mind, due to how things like this work as far as boost ratio, it will not actually boost off of itself. However, it will boost off of every other thing. So at max, it can end up getting 7 for a 21 total additional boost for a total of 31. Realistically, this is very unlikely to happen, to have all your team submerge and all the enemy team submerge, but that is the highest you could theoretically have, to 31%. Realistically, you're probably going to have like maybe 3 submerges in play. So it's kind of like 2 19% chances, 1 on first slot and 1 on the last slot. So basically, you'll have a chance to devour both of them. And yeah, that's basically the whole premise of it, is you just do a double tap, you have your double devour chance, and hopefully you'll end up getting devours. This thing is pretty tanky. It actually has the same final trait as Behemoth, which Behemoth ended up getting buffed for like 2 years ago. Ends up getting it buffed to 10 life, and this thing has the exact same thing, I believe just under a different name, the Titanic one, which ends up giving it 10 life whenever it matches for a extra turn. So not only does it have this, but it has a 25% skull reduction, and it has the devour rate. So it's actually relatively tanky overall, even though its actual skull mitigation isn't particularly too high. Between its devour rate and its extra life, it's definitely going to get quite a bit. It also ends up submerging itself whenever it ends up taking damage, so this will be pretty beneficial to also dodge additional damage. So it's basically like a tanky version of Kraken is what it comes down to. It doesn't have any potential to get its extra turn back or anything like that, but aside from that, it's not too bad. It's kind of average. Given that you can't really loop it, it's not really going to be used too much. As far as the rest of this drop table, obviously you're mostly coming for the crab. Most other things within this drop table, not really too useful. There are a few utility troops to use here and there, like Merlion, but they're already low enough rarity that you probably already have some copies of them. But yeah, that's pretty much the main thing you're looking for, is the crab, and I guess maybe randomly finding the mythic. Though Aquaticus would end up being a little bit better. Gosh, I'm trying to get the legend. Could you give me like a couple more of the legend? Like, oh, there's Aquaticus. Yeah, I was right. It is Aquaticus. So I got both the mythics before I can get all the copies of this legend. I think I need 2 more. Might as well get them now, just so we can see all the mythics. Oh, and then we just get all 6. That's what I was looking for. Could you have just done that the first time? We could have saved a bunch of hundreds of keys. I guess I used all my mythic luck right now since we got so bad on the last mythic. But anyways, that's the event key drop table. Overall, I would pretty much just go for the legend and probably just use a blue orb on it. I just have so many event keys, I just figured might as well use the event keys. But just get like 1 copy to crab, use a blue orb on it, and that's pretty much all you need. Most of the rest of the drop table, not really that good. Anyways, as far as guild-related events, we of course have 2 this week because we got ourselves some Guild Wars. So as far as Guild Wars is concerned, nothing different here. Just make sure to use a pure color team for every single time, and make sure all your defend teams are set to be completely unique so that you get the full amount of points there, and make sure that they're actually set to the correct color days, which I'm already going to be revamping all of these, so I haven't bothered adjusting them yet. And don't forget to get your little sentinels to help out your guild as far as extra stats as well as yourself. As far as the other event, of course, we got the standard Word Lore event. As far as what we have for it, it's 160% extra skull and spell damage, so luckily it won't be that annoying since it does end up applying it to both. What is a little bit annoying though is the way that this thing gets scored. So the crab, the one that begins with K, that is extremely hard to pronounce, he gives you 10 shells. The Leviathan gives you 8. The Kraken gives you 7. The Skyla gives you 6. So you want to know those. The main reason being is, if I'm not mistaken, every single one of those I just mentioned is a legend. Actually, the crab one might be a mythic one, but all those are probably legends. So that means there's like 3 or 4 different ones all underneath the same exact color that give a different amount of points, which is very confusing. So yes, it's the crab one as the highest, then Leviathan, then Kraken, then Skyla as the lowest. It is very weird, but that is the way it is. Then Shocktopus is underneath Epic, which ends up giving 5. And the absolute lowest is the Lamprey at 4, which is the little blue one. Those 2 you obviously want to try avoiding, and mostly just stick with the orange ones. Generally speaking, as long as you just make sure to take all the orange ones first, you'll probably be good to go. However, that is the exact point order as far as how they are distributed. Very annoying, as per usual. Other than that, nothing really too special here, just the standard rewards. We are getting a new weapon with the raid event that we have going on this Friday, but no specific new weapon or anything like that happening with this event. As far as restriction, you're restricted specifically to a Merlantis, and that's it. Just any Merlantis weapons and any Merlantis troops is what you have. So overall, not the worst event we've ever had, but a little clunky. Merlantis has some synergy with itself, given the Merfolk and the Submerge and all that, but it doesn't have the greatest of synergy with itself. Anyways, other than that, other things that we got going on this week. Tuesday, we got ourselves the Flamefire Keep, so you can end up getting that thing that's kind of like Queen Mab there. Pure Faction is also pretty easy. It actually has the cheapest to obtain 65% reduction in the game, and it basically does some true damage and just tanks forever. It's really nice. Though not as annoying as last weekend. Not that kind of tankiness. It can actually get kills. The Kingdom actually has damage, unlike the other one. Anyways, on Wednesday, we're getting the Blue Guild War pet, so hopefully... Oh, no, we do. We have a Brown Guild War on Tuesday, so perfect. So you'll have it plenty in time. Actually, what day does Blue Guild War fall? Does it actually happen today? Oh, let's see. I know it's not tomorrow. That's not where Guild War is. Blue Guild War falls. Oh, perfect day. The pet actually comes out exactly on Blue Guild War Day. So if you haven't already gotten copies of that pet, make sure to do so pretty much immediately on Wednesday, because you'll be able to go get the pet for exactly on Blue Guild War Day. I wonder if they even planned that or if it just happened to be that way. But that works out perfectly, because generally that's the only time you really use this, because it only triggers if you use 4 blue on a team. And guess what day you use 4 blue? Blue Guild War Day. So that's kind of coincidental if that wasn't planned. Anyways, as far as Thursday, we got the Tidecaller hero class. It's okay. Generally use Frostmage instead. However, you might be using it some this week just because of all the events related to it. However, generally speaking, Frostmage is the better option compared to this hero class. And aside from this, as far as Friday, we're going to be getting a raids event. Pretty standard raid event, but we will be getting a nice little shiny new weapon, which is one of those like double weapons based on its type. So pretty standard there. Anyways, as far as Soulforge, we got some really juicy things in here. So first things first, this is the first time ever that Kurandara is in the Soulforge. This is also the very first what's it called? Campaign troop to ever be in the Soulforge. So Kurandara technically has been available since like months now. However, you would have had to have gotten it in the Glory Gem Guild and VIP chest drop table if you were playing free to play. And the chance of specifically getting this mythic randomly out of one of every mythic in the game, not counting the Soulforge only mythics, is exceedingly low. So this is basically the first time to 100% guarantee get him if you've been playing free to play, and he didn't end up getting him from season 1 of Gems of War. So yeah, he's pretty good. definitely worth getting. He's probably actually the best one we've gotten of the 3 so far. Well, technically of the 2. Obviously, we're getting to 3 in a couple weeks, several weeks from now. But he has a 50% curse all enemies. This ends up being pretty devastating since it's one of the better cursors in the entire game. You still have things like Mirage Queen, which is pretty good, especially with all the elemental metas and stuff like that. However, 50% curse per extra turn, still pretty good. Ends up doing it to all enemies. Ideally, you get lucky. Sometimes you get unlucky, though. It's also pretty much the only mythic in the game that actually has a single link into itself, which is kind of weird. And it also has Impervious, though that is pretty useful. It's 26 mana cost, ends up converting all yellows to Doom Skulls, and ends up getting a bunch of damage onto a single target. However, do keep in mind that the Doom Skull boost ratio does happen after the fact, or sorry, before the fact, so it doesn't actually get the boost ratio from the Doom Skulls that it creates. So if there's only 5 Doom Skulls on the board, you make it 15, it'll only boost ratio off that 5, not off the 15. So do be mindful of that as far as his ability. But definitely worth picking up. Probably the most valuable thing to end up picking up as well, as far as the 3 that we have available, as far as the fact that it's pretty much never been available since. So yeah, definitely make sure to go get it. Aside from that, Lord of Slaughter and Merlantis are the next 2 strongest. As far as Lord of Slaughter, you'd mostly want to get it if you like running Skull Spam teams, basically like a Shagra with additional Skull Spam with additional effects. Also has a pretty good final trait, generally used in the 2nd slot. Aside from that, we got Merlantis. Merlantis could arguably actually be the strongest of these 3, mostly because it has the enchant and it ends up doing the auto extra turn. It's one of only 2 mythics in the entire game with extra turn, both of which are really good. The other one is Iron Gut, of course. But yeah, Merlantis, pretty good pickup. The 4 times enchant can do so much value because it's basically 8 mana per turn. It's really good because generally when you're doing game modes that don't already have an enchant from the potion effect, you know, if you're just doing PvP, Guild Wars, stuff like that, having 8 mana per turn can do quite a bit of value, assuming you can get it onto your entire team. So obviously it's not all in one troop, 2 per troop, 8 across the entire team, but still really, really good. But those are the main 3 things you'd probably want to go for. Also, speaking of Kraken earlier, this is the other version of that crab that's basically in the game. It has more loot potential and everything. Personally, I wouldn't bother going out of your way to go and get this troop. However, this is basically what the crab is like as far as its similarities. So it's kind of like the other crab. No point in crafting that, but I just figured mention it. Aside from that, this is the next weapon for the things, if you have been collecting them. There's, I believe, only 7 left that have not occurred yet. If you've been following them ever since they came in a while back, about a year ago, we ended up getting a new weapon for every single kingdom, and we only have 7 left if you've been following all of them and you haven't bought any of them early for $5. But if you're playing free to play in that regard, 7 more of them. We're almost there. And aside from that, nothing really too good. Though Iron Wave is pretty good for the event if you want to run it. It creates a bunch of blue and brown. I actually use it for one of the teams. You won't really use it much beyond that point, but is okay for the event. So if you're going to craft something other than just that for completion's sake, maybe Iron Wave. But overall, you can pretty much just skip every single weapon that is available this week, other than for completionist sake, as most of them aren't really used that often. Anyways, let's start getting into some teams. So we have several teams to go and show. And, of course, all of them will be in the description as usual, and you just copy-paste them from there. As far as the World event, World Skull, you can end up running Skull Spam. You can do Withering Staff into basically Nimue in order to do a bunch of various Skull Spam. You have the Crab in order to go for additional Devour in case your hero somehow dies. And you're basically just going all into the Skull Spam option. Obviously, you have the spell option as well, as far as what you can end up doing, and you can do this into various true damage teams. Here we have Crystal Turtle going into a bunch of Deep Kings, as well as the Iron Wave weapon I was just mentioning, which also ends up going into the Deep Kings. You can also do this a little bit differently and try going with the Mythic Aquaticus, and then do the Submerge, and then doing that one brown-yellow. That ends up creating a bunch of blues off the Submerge, so it really just depends how you want to mana generate. I just kind of showed it this way, since it doesn't require a Mythic, just to kind of show it as the mid-range team. As far as your cheapest possible team, you can end up doing it actually without any hero at all, running Coral Golem, the Mervarax, which I was just talking about, that one brown-yellow. He creates blue based on how many Submerges you have, and what's nice about this is Coral Golem, if you end up exploding for green gems, ends up submerging your entire team, so you can get boost ratio, fill the entire team with blue. You double cast Merline, which also silences and does additional damage to the silenced enemies if they happen to double tap, and then you just use Coral Golem again, get them everything submerged again, fill it all back with mana, and kind of just rinse and repeat. This thing just feeds back into that, and that thing basically feeds into that, so you're pretty much good to go as far as your mana is concerned, so ends up working out pretty well. Also uses a new green-red banner that came out the other week. It still seems to be glitched. Gives +2 green, +2 red instead of +2 green, +1 red. So you do get a whole additional +1 from it, so might as well use it while you can, because that will probably be fixed in the very near future. At this current moment in time, that is insanely good value for a banner. Speaking of that banner, of course, for the faction event, we got the Frostfire Keep. As far as that faction is concerned, you can actually just run the Tesla team. We ran this for pretty much all last weekend. I think I ran it for the entirety of it, all the way from 20 to 500. And his faction is exactly the same. You can just run double Tesla into Holy Saint Astra and end up getting it easily done just the same way. Ends up working out really smoothly. As far as the pure faction is concerned, the Frostfire Wraiths ended up doing this pretty well. He's actually the cheapest troop in the entire game that has 65% score reduction. He's the rare from this faction. And yeah, pretty tanky, 65% reduction, and he has a life gain. And with all the potion effects that you'll have from doing this on a Tuesday, from doing pure faction, he'll be hitting for like 70, 80 life steal. And with the enchant, you'll be able to get them all up and just life steal like crazy, focus whatever the biggest threats are, and then be so tanky that you'll pretty much never die. And if you do, well, you still have like 3 left for the final battle, so this is kind of tank forever. And aside from that, for the Thursday event we got going on, we got Tidecaller. Easiest way to do this is build a bunch of links into Dawnbringer, of course, and that's basically what this is. This is kind of quick kill with Dawnbringer. One of the few things Dawnbringer's still good for. One of the last things Dawnbringer's still good for. But hey, it can still clear through class events very quickly, so it has that going for it. But use the Tidecaller Hero Class 2. Tidecaller Hero Class does count as a Merlantis troop, which is also a merfolk, so it does get 20% additional stats this week, which allows Dawnbringer to do, well, 20% more than it normally would. And of course, he can set all into magic and get more value from that, because he does have a natural half mana start as well, which is pretty nice on the hero class. But anyways, guys, that will wrap it up for this video. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. As always, we will be streaming Gems of War tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonight, we'll be doing 2 major things. One is, as per usual, we'll be going over all of the campaign tasks and doing everything related to that. We're also getting a new weapon in that regard. Nothing really too useful, but a new weapon nonetheless, if you end up getting the paid side. And aside from that, we also will be doing a bunch of team building, because I'm planning on building the new books, or not the new books, but I finally got them upgraded. But the books, those Doom book things, those Doom Rarity books, I'm not sure exactly what they're called. It's called on the books, the little tome things. But they're pretty good in Guild Wars, and I've seen them quite a bit in Guild Wars, but I've never actually bothered building around them, because I've never bothered maxing them, but I finally did. So we're going to build around every single one of them and see what we could do, and see how good they perform throughout the week. And of course, every other day this week we'll be doing Guild Wars every single night, just kind of doing that. Always pretty fun. Anyways, guys, I'll catch you guys later. Hope you have a wonderful week, and best of luck with everything. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for watching.